and he was in cardiac arrest, and he was in cardiac arrest for probably 17 minutes, and they weren't able to, were having a hard time reviving him. They didn't think he was going to live through the night. Hello? Talk about God, revealing something to you, before, it's like you get this shocking news. Well, so we said, we'll be there. Tell Dad we're going to be there. He was in a coma. And so we grabbed our son and gathered all his stuff and threw him at the other grandma, and we said, we're going to Bismarck. So he hopped in the van and gave the baby to Grandma Betty and took off for Bismarck, which is about a 3-hour drive. So we got there and walked in the door and walked in, and of course, I know they say that there's when they're doing those little shakes and nervous things, that it's not what's the word, involuntary. But I tell you what, he was agitated, and it was a spiritual agitation, and he was just like, you could tell he was just agitated. He was blinking, and it's like he was like, you could tell he was agitated about something. And I sat down and I said, Dad, I said, we're here. I said, I'm here. And I said, I want you to know that I forgive you. I really do forgive you. And I started to sing. I started to sing Amazing Grace and Jesus Loves Me and different songs like that. He really loved. Of all the things that he said negative about me, he always said that he loved my singing. So I would sing, and I sang to him, and I was singing to him, and he just started to calm down. He could just sense the peace come over him. And I said, Dad, I said, I really do forgive you. And you know what? You're released from this earth. You're released. I release you. You can go home and be at peace. And he just went, and I know that at that moment his spirit left. Even though the machines were keeping his body going, and there was still, but there was no presence anymore. You know how you can tell when that presence, if you've ever been in a room where someone died, it's like you can sense that their presence is no longer in that room. Because, see, that body is not that person. It's the spirit that is the person. And that spirit had left. I could sense it. When he did that sigh, I could tell his spirit had left. And it was probably the next day when he finally, we finally got to the place where we said, okay, they're saying that no brain activity, nothing, so they just took him off, and within a half an hour, he just, passed away. Well, the body passed away. His spirit was already home with Jesus. And I tell you what, that's the picture of forgiveness. That's who I am. That's how you meet your potential. You don't allow disrespect for authority, spiritual indifference, making poor choices in relationships, inferior motives, and double-mindedness, excuses and fear, unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, and anger. You don't allow those things to short-circuit your potential so that you can meet your destiny and have the dream that God has for you, to meet that dream that God has for you, to realize the dream that God has for you. There's a bunch of people in the Bible that talks about, Esther. She was chosen to be she was chosen by the Persian king to be the queen of Persia. But yet God chose her to deliver her people from complete annihilation. Joseph was chosen by Pharaoh as second in command, but he was chosen by God to deliver his people from starvation. Moses was abandoned by his parents, found and raised by the Egyptian princess, but he was chosen by God to free his people from slavery. Daniel was taken captive by Babylon and became friend of the king, but he was chosen by God to deliver his people from death, given many prophetic visions of the promise of God's ultimate deliverance for his people. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were taken as hostages, slaves for Babylon, and yet they became leaders in the king's palace. And ultimately, you saw read what happened to them when in the fiery furnace. They didn't burn. David, King David, started out as a shepherd. They didn't think to choose him. Samuel didn't think to choose him to become king. But what happened? God chose him to be king of Israel. Mary, the mother of Jesus, she was an unwed mother. She wasn't married yet when she was pregnant with Jesus, but yet she gave birth to the King of Kings. Nehemiah was taken captive and made cupbearer for the king, and yet he was chosen by God to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Hannah, infertile for many years, had Samuel, gave him to the priest, and ultimately to God, and Samuel became a great prophet, and Hannah had 3 other sons and 2 daughters. Mary Magdalene, delivered from demons, a prostitute, and she was counted among the apostles. What's your excuse? These were not their dreams to be queen of Persia. I'm sure she had other dreams. Esther had other dreams, and yet she was chosen. God took their broken dreams and turned them into divine destiny. What are your broken dreams? You can give those broken dreams to God. Give them to him and ask him to give you divine destiny and to help you become all that he created you to be. Do you have broken dreams? Ask God to take your broken dreams and to create your divine destiny.